Hello everyone, welcome to Bookarazzi and this is Meenu. So today I'm going to review a book called Battle for Bittora by Anuja Chauhan. So this is the second book I'm reading by this author. So I already told you I'm doing an Anuja Chauhan reading marathon. So we decided to read this book as the second book. And I also told you that I have great expectations for this book. So in this video you will get to know whether I like this book or not. So what are the things I liked about it and whether this book was able to satisfy me or not. So let's get into the video right away. So Battle for Bittora is a political rom-com, I would say. So I kind of love politics and books that revolves around politics. So that was one of the main reasons why I have decided to go with this book, because I cannot stop myself from picking up this book among all the other books that Anuja Chauhan has written. So this book is about a 25-year-old Ginny who is working as an animator in Mumbai and leading a very normal life like any one of us. But then in the due course of the story, it is established that she is a political heir of one of the biggest parties in the country, and she is needed back at home to carry forward the legacy of her family. And then she is made to stand in the Lok Sabha election from the constituency of Bittora. So she is standing against this guy called Zain Altaf Khan, who is a royalty and people love him in that region, and he's a Muslim. So this guy is actually Ginny's childhood friend with whom she has a very complicated history, and how these both fight against each other in this election and who gets to win is the story of this book. So the blurb itself, the storyline itself was very interesting, and it actually piqued my interest at a zillion level, and I cannot stop myself from picking up this book. So this story has been told in a very funny and trademark Anuja Chauhan humorous way. So I really like this book. The thing I really liked about this book was, it was very realistic, because whenever we read a book or watch a movie that is based on politics or elections, we feel like we're entitled to read about a character who is very righteous, who is coming to politics to change everything. They are coming to change all the corruption, to change the system, and we feel like that is how a character should be when we read political books. But this book is not like that, because this book was very realistic. It stated how the reality of politics and election in India is, and that is the thing I really loved about this book. The author has just stated what is what. It is not very revolutionary. She was not creating a hero or heroine. She was just telling a story from the perspective of this person who is coming from a political background, and it was very interesting because it was very real. The writing style and the narrative style of Anuja Chauhan was as good as it was in Zoya Factor, but I did have few issues with this book. I will tell you what are they. First of all, I felt like the writing style, the vocabulary in this book was kind of very advanced, I would say. So that actually made me to go and check on my dictionary every now and then. And secondly, it had a lot of Hindi words infiltrated into it, like Hinglish words. So I am not a Hindi speaker. I do not understand Hindi at much deeper level. So I felt like I was being left out, because I could not understand what was being spoken in that particular scene. So I am someone who loves Anuja Chauhan so much, and I would like to cling on to every single word she has to say. And whenever those Hindi words come into the line, I feel like I could not able to understand the intensity or the depth of the particular scene or the dialogue. So that was one issue with this book. Next thing I had issue with was, I actually thought like Zain Altaf Khan was going to come in this book, like he's going to be there in this book throughout. But then he hardly made any presence in this book. I think he only came for around some 8 scenes, but all the 8 scenes were seriously very nice. But then I expected to read a lot of him, but then that was the only disappointment. But he was a very great character. I love the characterization, and he was like very chill, very positive. He does not keep anything in his heart. He just he's a take it easy kind of a person. So that was one thing I really loved about Zain. So the next thing was Ginny is standing from a party called Pragati. So this party is a very famous party and a very big party in the country. So this party actually helped India get its freedom during the freedom moment. And on the other hand, Zain is standing from a party called IJP. I think it's called Indian Janata Party, and this party is not very secular. They wanted to make India into a Hindu country, but Zain is a Muslim guy, and he standing for this kind of a party is kind of very difficult for everyone to assimilate, including the characters in this book. So I felt like the author gave some reason why he was standing for this particular party, and that was actually the plot of this book. But then I felt like that reason was not solid enough. I felt like if there had been a bit more strong reason to it, it could have been even more better, because he's a Muslim and him standing in a party like IJP, which is against other religions and who want to uplift Hinduism, and they're not secular. I think I would have needed to have some solid explanation for that, and I think that actually was lagging in this book. So these are the few issues I had with this book. Other than that, I actually loved this book. So the best thing about this book was entirely revolving around Ginny, and there were lot and lots of characters around Ginny. Especially there were very strong women around her who was helping her throughout this election campaign, and that is something I really liked about this book. This book also had a lot of interesting characters, like Ginny's grandmother. So she was very confusing, because at times you feel very angry and irritated with her, but at times you feel sad for her, because old people are like that. Their mentality is way old and very narrow, but then at times you feel like so much love towards her. So her characterization was kind of very difficult, and I also liked the way the author has actually infiltrated a lot of real life incidents that has happened in the political scenario. Like she did not point out who is who, but then that was interesting to make the correlations, and I really liked that about this book. And also there were like other characters who played a very remarkable role, and this was a spectacular read. I am so in love with this book. And the next thing is we all would have come across these election campaigns. We would have watched it on TV, or we would have come across one that was happening in our place, but we would have always seen all these campaign from a third person's perspective. If we are not very involved in politics, we do not even know what it is all about. We might feel like some politicians coming and speaking on stage, and they're doing their campaigning and brainwashing people for the vote. So that's all we know about election and election campaigning. But this book actually gave an inside view to the campaigning, the election, the preparations and everything. So this insider's view was very authentic, and it was very interesting to read, because we do not know what is happening and how these politicians actually prepare for these campaign, and that was very interesting. So this book had a lot of funny and wild and adventurous sequences filled with this book, and it was so very interesting to read, and I loved everything about this book. So this author actually tried to differentiate something, because we all think, we actually spoke about these two parties, Prakati and IJP, and we feel like these two parties are so very different from each other, but they are not so very different from each other. So that's what the author has also told in this book. Though these people seem like one is better than the other, but they have their own flaws. And also the author has tried to convey that nobody is completely secular. At least 98% of the people are not very completely secular or completely caste free. So everybody, at least inside their heart, they have this non-secular casteist characteristics in them, because we have been tamed to think in that way, and I think we should all try very hard to get out of this kind of mindset, and that is what the author was also trying to convey in this book. So I also liked how this book ended, and as I told you, if the author has given a strong reason why Zayn was standing in this party's ticket, IJP's ticket, it would have been much more better. So my rating for this book would be 4 out of 5 stars. So I already told you in the previous video that I loved the Zoya factor the second time more. I think the same thing will happen with Battle for Bittora as well, and I hope I will like this book even more better when I read this book some 2 years later, I guess. So yeah, I think it was a very good read, and if you are looking for some light-hearted funny book, then I would definitely suggest you with this book, and it has good amount of politics. If you're interested in politics, you could also go ahead with this book. It is a spectacular read. And I also learned that Sonam Kapoor will be playing the role of Ginny in this movie adaptation as well, and I think Fawad Khan is doing Zayn Altaf Khan's role. So I don't know how far it is true or how far the movie has materialized, but this is what I learned with few Google search. I don't know how that's going to turn out, so let's see. So yeah, that's all for today's video. If you like the video, please do share, subscribe, like, and comment for Nari Bookarazzi, and I forgot actually. Click the bell icon over there so that you could get notified whenever I post a video. Bye bye, take care.